Tell you the story about a man named Charlie and the tragic but fateful day. He put 10 cents in his pocket, kissed his wife, finally went to ride. John Fulkerson found out somehow that I played the guitar. He knew Mike DeLay played the banjo, and one night John invited us over. Our wives were there, they were upstairs talking, and we decided to go downstairs and try to see what we might have in common. And we found right away that there were a few songs that we all knew, and even dared to try a little harmony. And we said, we got to do this again. That was the start.
And what did you have for dinner that night?
Oh,
Well, I'll chime in on that.
Yeah.
My wife, Lynn, made a nice big pot of chili and some cornbread on the side.
but I had aunts and uncles who enjoyed getting together in a kitchen in the dining room, and what they did was they harmonized. And that harmony was something I know has stayed with me all the way along. But it began there with harmonizing on the old songs like Down by the Old Mill Stream, and getting into 2, 3, and 4-part harmony at times. My education or my exposure to music just continued, you know.
Well, I started later in life. During my college days, I started buying, selling, trading vintage musical instruments such as banjos, guitars, mandolins, that sort of thing. So I was in contact with some pretty good musicians who were either upgrading or wanting a different instrument. And that got me thinking that if I'm going to be around these guys, I probably should learn how to play something. And a friend of mine was a professional musician. He played the banjo and the 12-string guitar. And he was really quite excellent, but I loved the way he played the banjo. And he suggested, why don't you get one? And, you know, if you don't want to do this three-finger style that I'm doing, try the claw hammer. And I thought, well, okay. Thought claw hammer would probably be maybe more difficult for me to learn, but it would be difficult for people to find that I'd made a mistake. So knowing that it was going to be a long road for me, I chose claw hammer. And so I bought a Pete Seeger hand booklet, and he taught me how to play through that. So I continued on, and like Jerry, when I finally came to the point where I should be in a trio, I actually had to take a couple of music lessons.
A friend of my father taught me to play the guitar. And subsequently, I was brought into a little folk group in my church where I grew up with a couple other guys. And we were sent off to some nursing homes to play for elderly people, which forced us to practice. And so we got to be reasonably good. And then a really good thing happened to me when I was in high school. I came into contact with the Warner family. Frank Warner, the father of the family, had gone to Appalachia and collected a number of songs, one of which became very popular, Tom Dooley. So his 2 sons went to my school. They played the guitar, Jeff and Garrett Warner. Garrett and I played football together. And so I got to know them quite well. And I came under that influence of that Appalachian music early in life. And another fellow joined us, Jeff Davis. So we had a group. We used to play and just have fun. So that was something really great that happened to me. And then after high school, I didn't really get to play much until later on. My son got interested. I taught him to play the guitar. He learned the banjo on his own. And so he and I would play together, which was really great. And we do to this day. When we get together, we both get out our guitars and The only problem is he's gotten so much better than me that I can barely keep up, but we still have a good time.
It's just a great medicine for many things.
Vocalizing of tunes that ends up magically transporting us through either assuming the narrator's point of view and being that narrator singing that song, or joining in the larger chorus to harmonize and bring people together and feeling a wonderful spirit of togetherness.
Yes. During the American folk movement, I think the most influential singer-songwriter was Bob Dylan. Bob, as a young man, moved to New York City, and he played small venues such as cafes and coffee houses. But he also met and learned from veterans such as Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. He considered them father figures at the time. In a recent interview, which I found interesting, Dylan had stated that he learned from Black blues musicians such as Hughie Ledbetter and Lightning Hopkins. He also learned from Southern Black gospel singers, and he felt like this gave him an understanding of the language of the Poor South, as well as the struggles in that region. He was the Shakespeare of his generation. He wrote more than 500 songs that were recorded by more than 2,000 artists. Most importantly, he set the standard for lyric writing. Lyrics in many of his songs will remain relevant so long as we have wars and, unfortunately, social injustices.
It's Bill Staines. Bill is from New Hampshire. He's a fellow New Englander. He's a consummate songwriter and singer. I'm eternally grateful to him for all the concerts he gave in and around Connecticut that we were able to take our children to, Brad and Phoebe, and listen to his beautiful music, truly beautiful, with wonderful lyrics, and just great for children, great for people of any age. He wrote Placed in the Choir, which I think many people know, All God's Critters, River, Old Jack, many songs that really speak to the soul, celebrating beauty in the world around us, beauty of other people, beauty of animals. He has an uncanny way, really a beautiful way of expressing, the beauty of the world around us.
An acoustic music that tells a story, and that pretty well encompasses it in my mind. It's really passing stories down from generation to generation, and folk music has just been a big part of different regions, different countries.
Folk music often, not always, has a social conscience, and I think that was particularly true in the 60s, civil rights, that many folk songs were written and sung, namely people like Woody Guthrie, Bob Dylan, many others, Bill Staines, with a social conscience and really a sense of trying to do the right thing. There's an integrity to folk music, I think, in the sense that it's people seeing the truth of their lives and the betterment of mankind in many cases. Somewhat idealistic, I would say, in many cases, particularly in the 60s where I grew up. folk music at that time raised the human spirit greatly, I think, in the country. And I think we all felt a sense of great hope, which came about largely through folk music in that period of time.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream